Come on in, pull up a chair and take a load off because today I'll be reviewing and paging through Vaesen from Free League Publishing. So, is this an excellent must have horror game that focuses on Scandinavian folklore? Or should you not even bother saying boo to this core book? Well, you're going to find out right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As mentioned in the open, I am going to be reviewing Vaesen in just a moment. But first, do want to mention, if you end up liking this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell, because not only will it let you know when I upload videos such as this, it'll also tell you when my live stream, The Daily Dope, airs right here on YouTube, Monday through Thursday nights, as I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. All right, so we are going to be diving into Vaesen. It can be, from what I hear, this word can be pronounced in a variety of different ways. It can be pronounced Vaesen, like it's got a W. It could be like Wasen, Vasen. But I did see that it's almost as if it's like vase, like, you know, like a vase, as we would say in America. But I believe the correct, I should say, pronunciation is Vaesen. So we're going to find out. I don't know. All I can tell you is the book's in English, thank goodness. It is from Free League Publishing. It's written by Nils Hintze, inspired by the artwork of Johan Egerkrans, which is displayed throughout the book. This 240-page hardcover is available right now for $49.99. You can also get it in PDF at DriveThruRPG. It is normally $24.99. Right now and for the next few days, it is on sale during their Halloween sale for $19.99. There's also a bundle that is available that has some cards, some dice, as well as a Game Master screen, a big poster map. That is available for $95. And I will actually show you some of those items as well very quickly. So let's swing on over to the other camera, because here we've got the book. So first off, got to point out, really dig the artwork. The artwork is very, very cool. I will mention, though, as far as I understand, that Johan Egerkrans has an art book that features all this art. So if you also have that, and you pick this up, I don't think you're going to see a lot of stuff that's new. Although it's possible that just the line art, kind of like the black and white, is what we will end up seeing as something that's new. Like I said, I am not positive. So once again, this is hardcover. This kind of has a matte finish to it, which I really do like. It doesn't have that like real, heavy sheen to it that we see on some role-playing game books. Say, for an example, what we get from like Wizards of the Coast for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. So we're going to dive on in. I'm going to page through this very quickly. One thing I do notice, and this is something we see with a lot of the Free League Publishing books, there's a lot of open space. I don't know. I don't know if it's to kind of boost up the page count or what, but as you notice, we have a lot of space top and bottom, a lot of white space there. But regardless, jumping on in, this is a game. It's supposed to be set in an alternate 19th century, kind of a Victorian age, but it is taking place in Scandinavia, and the ghosts, the ghoulies, those folklore creatures all really do exist. Now, that does not necessarily mean that everybody sees them and everyone's exposed to them. but they do exist. Your characters are going to be people who possess the sight. They're actually able to see the Vaesen, even when they're invisible, even when they're trying to hide. So this is built upon the year one engine. Gosh, for a second I was like, 1 year engine. No, it's year one engine. And that means it is D6 based, it is dice pool based, and it is a rather rules light game overall. In fact, a great many of the year one engine games are pretty rules light. So essentially what happens, and you'll get a peek at the dice that are available as well. So essentially you get dice for your attributes, you get dice for skills, talents, possibly equipment. You're not going to have tons and tons of dice, but it's possible you have 2, 3 dice, maybe 4, and you're looking for a 6 and able to succeed, which of course, as you see, I suck. So, and that's essentially the main conflict or, action resolution mechanic is a die pool, and you're looking for a 6. And we've got a few different archetypes for the players to choose from. Not a ton, but a few. So these are pretty interesting. Officer, priest, private detective. I say Holmes. Servant, writer, vagabond. This seems like an oddball kind of inclusion here. Here we have all kind of relatively professional types and then a vagabond. I don't know. So as I mentioned, artwork's very, very cool. I've mentioned this on the Daily Dope a couple of times. For some strange reason, some of the artwork reminds me a little bit of Charles Addams. And yes, I know the art doesn't look anything like Charles Addams' work, but I don't know, there's just a certain vibe to some of the artwork that kind of reminds me of that. So we do have some changes to the year one engine. So if you have played a lot of different year one engine games, you will notice there are some tweaks. There are some small changes. Some of these I'm a little more familiar with from the Alien role-playing game as well. But you'll have like difficulty levels, so you might need to roll. You may need more than 1 6 on your die rolls. There's like critical hits. There's fear, which is different than the panic mechanic that's in the Alien role-playing game, but that is something that's a little bit different as well. So we do have some skills, not a ton. There are only 4 attributes. There are only about a dozen skills. We do have talents. Some of these talents are specific to the archetypes. So for an example, we see the academics, the doctor, the occultist. We do also have some general talents that can be utilized as well. Character creation, pretty simple. It's basically spending points. Although there is an optional way for you to semi-randomly create a character as well. So here we get into a bit of the combat. Now, one thing that a lot of people realize with the year one engine games, at least in my opinion, the mechanics don't necessarily provide the sort of crunch that some people want from their combat in games. This is more an investigative game. This is kind of a slow burn game. You should not be sitting there having, constant battles. This is not high fantasy. This isn't Pathfinder. This isn't Dungeons and Dragons. It's not Call of Cthulhu either, just to point that out. So if those of you out there who are thinking, well, I've got Call of Cthulhu, it's got my horror game niche filled. Not so fast. You may want to take a peek at this. This is very, very interesting. This is extremely well written. It is very easy to grasp the various different concepts that are being provided. And it's not overly verbose. That's one of the things that I do notice we see a good deal with Free League Publishing is it's pretty succinct, pretty much to the point. So essentially this background, remember I was saying that this is this like alternate 19th century Scandinavia. There was this group known as the Society that was here to protect humanity from these creatures. And one of the cool aspects about the Vaesen is they're not necessarily all evil, all good. They have their own drives, ambitions, and goals. And I thought that was very nice to see, as opposed to just simply, oh, it's a chaotic evil creature. Bad game masters have a very hard time dealing with shades of gray. And I find more experienced game masters out there have a lot more success presenting multifaceted villains than just your typical mustache twirling Dick Dastardly types. So anyway, so we've got the Society that was formed to protect humanity, but it has fallen on hard times. It's gone. That is until the player characters arrive. So there is there's an aspect that's really interesting in here as well for the player characters, especially if you're gonna play campaign games, is that they're actually bringing the Society back. They are the new members of the Society, and I don't want to give away any of the cool little aspects of that, but there's kind of a base building aspect to it if you're going to play the campaign. So the area this takes place in is the Mythic North, and the city that is kind of the main hub for the action is Uppsala. It's science and fairy tales. So there are some core tenets to this game. One of them is that the city, that industrialization is encroaching upon the domains of the Vaesen and upsetting them. So we're kind of getting a nature and like mechanicism clash. That's one of the tenets of the game. You can find these creatures in the city, but they are much more apt to be found out in the wilderness. So now we're going to go through the various different kind of Vaesen. There are 21 of them detailed here in the book. So this section here is just kind of overall discussion of them as just as creatures. So now we start getting into some of the specifics, like the Ash Tree Wife, the Brook Horse, the Church Grim. Love this art. I just really dig this. This is actually the cover art for the adventure supplement that just came out, A Wicked Secret and Other Mysteries, which I believe is only out in I think it's only PDF at the moment, because it just came out within the past few days of my recording. We have fairies, we've got ghosts, giants, we got trolls, lindworms, which I was not familiar with these. So these are almost kind of dragon-ish. The mare, which reminds me a bit of a harpy. Mermaid. Myling. The neck. So all of these are Scandinavian folklore. So I thought that was very cool. It's not your typical European creatures of myth and magic. These are very unique. I'll give you an example. We're going to see the Will-o'-the-Wisp, which is very different than what you normally would think of as a Will-o'-the-Wisp. Will-o'-the-Wisp. These are kind of cool. Vatir. Vatir. We've got a werewolf. There we go. Here's the Will o' the Wisp. It's like kind of like a little gremlin type creature. Very, very different than what we're used to seeing in like fantasy role-playing games. So very cool. And then we have the Woodwife, which I got to be honest, I don't know why we've got the Woodwife and then we've got the Ash Tree Wife. They're kind of similar. So then we get a discussion of some of the NPCs, different kinds of NPCs. And then this is very reminiscent of Tales from the Loop, where it discusses how you create the mystery. Because as I mentioned before, this is a game of investigation and horror. It is not necessarily a game of a lot of combat. In fact, one of the tenets is that cleverness and kind of, I guess we'll say, just boldly going forth will be more successful than just resorting to violence in the game. So we get how to structure these adventures, I should say, and kind of gives you a breakdown. We get a bit of a flow chart, which if you have taken a look at Tales from the Loop, this is actually a little more in depth than Tales from the Loop. This game is designed, in my opinion, for players who are a little more mature than, and I'm not saying that Tales from the Loop is for little kids. I'm just saying this is more of a mature setting and so on. I personally think that this actually lends itself to campaign games better than Tales from the Loop, and possibly, well, I haven't seen the core book for Alien. I did review the starter set, but I do feel that this has more meat on its bones for long-term gameplay as opposed to just playing, one-offs where maybe you're playing for, a few sessions, that it's just, it's just a one-shot, not necessarily just only played during a single session. We also will have an adventure, The Dance of Dreams, which should be playable in a couple of sessions, maybe 3, all depends on how long you play your sessions. I tend to run fairly long role-playing game sessions, usually 6 hours, maybe even a little bit more than that. So I could see we'd knock this out probably a session and a half. Although I am sure I could stretch this out. This makes an excellent introduction to the game, as well as a stepping off point if you are going to engage in the campaign system within. We do have some handouts. Although I gotta be honest, these are really very, very small. It'd be very difficult to read these. And we got various tables to finish up. And this is where I was talking about how there's kind of a semi-random character creation. You can use these tables to create backgrounds and to provide skills. So here are the character sheets. So this is the front, that's the back. As I mentioned before, there are only 4 attributes. There's physique, precision, logic, and empathy. These are your skills. What do we got? A dozen? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yes, a dozen. And then we also have the talents, which are kind of like skills as well. So this is the front. This is the back. And then we got our index and the backers for the Kickstarter. So that is what we find inside the 240-page hardcover for the book. There are also dice available. There's a dice set, which I just kind of showed those before, right? So we've got the dice set here. There's also a card deck. This is all part of the bundle that's available that you can pick up. So in the card deck, we've got initiative cards, which if you are familiar with the Alien role-playing game, or I should actually say it's Alien, the role-playing game, we do have these initiative cards. So they are dealt out to both the player characters and NPCs when you have combat. There's some kind of cool talents. There are some kind of cool successes. One aspect in combat, extra successes. Remember, I was talking about you need to roll that 6, or on this die, it's a vortex. You're able to actually trade initiative cards with an enemy, with an NPC. In the actual gameplay, you can trade initiative cards with your fellow player characters. We also do get some art cards. So this includes the various different creatures throughout. It's the same artwork that we saw before. There are a couple of monsters that are in this deck that are not in this book, but I am pretty sure that these creatures are actually in that adventure supplement I was talking about, a Wicked Secret and Other Mysteries. So we've got the deck of cards that's available. We have the pretty cool landscape Game Master screen. It's pretty nice. And unlike many Game Master screens out there that are presented in a landscape, everything's right here. Pretty much everything you need is right here. Can't say that for most of the screens that are out there for, say, D&D or Pathfinder. But yes, all that is right here. And also with the Game Master screen, you will receive a map of the Mythic North. It's not huge, but it is a good size. So this is the Mythic North. And then when we flip it over, we get a map of the city of Uppsala. Not super detailed. It's just kind of more like a street map. But there are some points of interest that are pointed out as well. There's actually a location that if you are going to play as a campaign, that will be very important to the player characters. So you got all of these goodies that are available in the bundle. Or, of course, you can simply get the core hardcover book or PDF and snag the PDF as well. So let's swing on over to the other camera, and I will wrap up with my final thoughts and give this a review score. So as you could kind of get the impression as I discussed the game, I really like this book. I really do. I do really like Vaesen or Vaesen or Wassen. I like this here Nordic horror role-playing game book from Free League Publishing. Really do dig the artwork. I think it really does incorporate the Year One engine very, very nicely. As I mentioned before, it's not necessarily a go-to system for like crunchy combat, but for what's going on in this game, I think it's very well done, very, very, very well implemented. Also, I find myself like really kind of, I don't want to say taken aback. I was surprised by some of these creatures and the way they're presented, and very different than your typical kind of stat blocked monsters from some like a Monster Manual or Bestiary. Very interesting. Also love the fact that these mythic creatures aren't necessarily good or evil. They just are kind of like people too. So all in all, this is really a lot of fun. I think people will really, really dig Vaesen as far as a nice rules light horror setting, especially if you like investigative games. If you sometimes feel, as an example, I'm a huge Call of Cthulhu fan. I have run Call of Cthulhu for decades. But there are some people out there, Call of Cthulhu can be pretty dark. Not to say that this is all, fairies and, everything's happy and rainbows and things like that. No, there's a very dark twist to this game as well, but not like the Cthulhu mythos would be. So if you have an interest in some horror investigation without being real heavy, and of course, kind of rules light, plus a fictional 19th century setting, then by all means, this is your game. I definitely give Vaesen, however it's pronounced, an extremely high 9.5 out of 10. It is that good. I really do like it. All right, that is it for this time out. Once again, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and if you do subscribe, don't forget, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when I upload videos such as this review, it'll also tell you when I stream my live show, The Daily Dope, Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube, as I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news. All right, so as I tend to close out all my videos during this never-ending pandemic, here's hoping that all of you out there are being smart and staying safe. See you next time. Oh, you're still here. Well, once again, thank you very much for watching this video. And of course, if you'd like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, click right here. And of course, if you want to see one of the latest episodes of the Daily Dope, click right on up here. And if you want to roll the dice, take your chances, see what YouTube thinks you might like from the channel, give a click right here. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and I'll see you next time.